I opened the door to find our bedroom furniture already loaded into a moving truck, and my husband kissing a woman I'd never seen before. 3 years. That's how long I'd been living a lie while decorating our life with fake smiles and genuine love. But the real shock wasn't the affair. It was discovering who she actually was. My name is Margaret, and at 67 years old, I thought I knew what heartbreak felt like. I'd buried my parents, said goodbye to dear friends, weathered the storms of raising 3 children through their teenage years. But nothing, absolutely nothing, prepared me for the day I found that second phone tucked inside the inner pocket of Robert's winter jacket. Let me take you back to the beginning, to when I still believed in the fairy tale we'd built together. Robert and I met when we were both 22, fresh out of college and full of dreams. He was studying architecture, and I was working as an elementary school teacher. We married within a year, and for the first 4 decades of our marriage, I would have sworn on anything holy that we were happy. We raised 3 beautiful children, Emma, now 42, Michael, 39, and our youngest, Sophie, 35. We weathered financial struggles in our 30s, celebrated promotions and graduations, became grandparents to 6 wonderful grandchildren. I was the kind of wife who took pride in our home. Every Sunday, I'd prepare Robert's favorite pot roast. I'd iron his shirts until they were crisp and perfect, pack his lunches with little notes tucked inside, remember every anniversary and birthday with thoughtful gifts. I thought these things mattered. I thought they meant something. Robert worked as a senior architect at Morrison & Associates, a prestigious firm downtown. He'd spent 35 years climbing that ladder, and 3 years ago, at 64, he'd finally made partner. I was so proud of him. We threw a party at our home, a beautiful Victorian we'd renovated together over 20 years, and I remember standing in our kitchen watching him laugh with colleagues, thinking how lucky I was. That was 3 years ago. 3 years ago when everything I'm about to tell you actually began, and I had no idea my entire world was rotting from the inside out. The first year after his promotion, Robert started working longer hours. Big projects, he'd say, kissing my forehead before leaving at 7 in the morning and returning at 9 at night. The partner workload is intense, Maggie. That's what he called me, Maggie. Such an affectionate nickname for someone he was actively betraying. I didn't question it. Why would I? We'd been married 42 years at that point. 42 years of trust, of partnership, of believing we were a team. I'd spent those years supporting his career, moving when his job required it, putting my own teaching career on hold when the children were young. I'd given him everything, and I believed, foolishly, desperately, believed that he'd given me everything in return. The warning signs were there. Looking back now, I can see them so clearly. Like reading a map after you've already gotten hopelessly lost. He started going to the gym at odd hours. "Gotta stay healthy," he'd say, patting his stomach. He bought new clothes, more fashionable than his usual style. He got contact lenses after wearing glasses for 30 years. He updated his entire wardrobe, spent $3,000 on a new watch, and started using cologne I'd never smelled before. "You look wonderful," I'd tell him, straightening his collar. "Retirement is going to be so much fun. Just 2 more years and we can finally travel like we always planned." He'd smile at me, kiss my cheek, and say, "Can't wait, Maggie." Every word was a lie. His phone habits changed, too. He'd always left his phone lying around, on the kitchen counter, the bathroom sink, the nightstand. But suddenly, it was always in his pocket, always face down, always password protected. When I'd ask about it, he'd laugh it off. "Work stuff, confidential client information, you know how it is." I did know how it was. I trusted him. God, how I trusted him. Our youngest daughter, Sophie, started noticing changes too. She'd come over for Sunday dinners, a tradition we'd maintained even after all the children moved out, and she'd whisper to me in the kitchen, "Mom, is Dad okay? He seems different." I'd say, "He's just stressed from work," I'd assure her, squeezing her hand. Partnership comes with a lot of pressure. Sophie would look at me with worried eyes, but she'd nod and let it go. What else could she say? What proof did any of us have that something was wrong? The second year was worse, though I didn't realize it at the time. Robert started taking weekend trips, client meetings in Chicago, site inspection in Boston, conference in Miami. Each trip lasted 3 to 4 days. He'd send me pictures, hotel lobbies, restaurant meals, construction sites. He'd call me every night, telling me he missed me, asking about my day, sounding for all the world like a devoted husband away on business. I never suspected anything. Not once. I spent those weekends alone, tending to our garden, visiting with our grandchildren, having lunch with my sister Patricia. I'd show her the photos Robert sent, proud of his successful career. "He works so hard," I'd tell her, "but it'll all be worth it when he retires. We're going to buy that RV we've always talked about and see the country." Patricia would smile, but something in her eyes seemed sad. I wonder now if she suspected. I wonder if everyone suspected except me. The money was another thing I should have noticed. We'd always had a joint account. Everything we earned went in, everything we spent came out. But Robert started talking about investments, about moving money around for better returns. "Trust me," he'd say, "I've been reading up on financial planning for retirement." So I trusted him. I always trusted him. He opened a separate investment account, moved $85,000 from our joint savings. "It'll grow faster this way," he promised. "When I retire, we'll have plenty for travel, for helping the kids if they need it, for spoiling those grandkids." I signed the papers he put in front of me. I didn't read them carefully. I didn't question where the statements went or why I never saw updates. He was my husband of 43 years. Why would I question him? Then came the little cruelties I told myself weren't cruelties at all. He'd forget my birthday, the first time in 43 years. "I'm so sorry, Maggie. Work has been insane." He bought me a generic card from the drugstore 3 days later. He forgot our anniversary, 44 years of marriage, and it slipped his mind completely. "I'll make it up to you," he promised. He never did. He stopped touching me. Not just intimately, though our bedroom had grown cold years before, but in all the small ways that had defined our marriage. No more hand-holding during movies, no more arms around my waist while I cooked, no more kisses goodbye. I told myself we were just getting older, that this was natural, that passion fades after so many years. But it wasn't fading. It was dying. And I was the only one who didn't know it had already been buried. The third year, this past year, he became almost a stranger. He'd come home from work and go straight to his study, closing the door. He'd eat dinner in silence, scrolling through his phone. He'd snap at me over small things, dinner being too cold, the house being too messy, me asking too many questions about his day. "Give me some space, Margaret," he'd say, using my full name instead of Maggie. That should have told me everything. He stopped attending family dinners.
Too tired, he'd claim. So I'd go alone to Sophie's house, to Emma's, to Michael's, making excuses for him. Dad's exhausted from work. He sends his love. The grandchildren would ask where Grandpa was, and I'd ruffle their hair and promise he'd come next time. He never did. Emma pulled me aside one Sunday, her face serious. "Mom, is everything okay between you and Dad?" "Of course, sweetheart," I'd said, forcing brightness into my voice. "Why do you ask?" "You just seem sad lately, and Dad's never around anymore." "We're fine," I insisted, hugging her. "Just fine." We weren't fine. We were falling apart. And only one of us knew it. It had already been buried. 3 months ago, everything changed. It was a cold January morning, and Robert had already left for work. I was doing laundry, gathering his dress shirts and slacks from the closet. His winter jacket, the expensive wool one I'd bought him for Christmas 2 years ago, had a stain on the sleeve. Coffee, probably. I took it to the dry cleaners pile and felt something heavy in the inner pocket. My first thought was that he'd left his wallet. Robert was always forgetting where he put things. I used to tease him about it, calling him my absent-minded professor. I reached into the pocket, and my hand closed on something rectangular and hard. When I pulled it out, I stared at it for a long moment, my brain struggling to process what I was seeing. It was a phone. Not Robert's phone. I knew what his looked like, a newer iPhone with a blue case. This was an older model, Android, with a plain black case. Why would Robert have a second phone? My heart started beating faster. There's probably a simple explanation, I told myself. Maybe it was an old work phone he forgot to turn in. Maybe he found it somewhere and planned to take it to Lost and Found. Maybe... But I knew. Somewhere deep inside, I already knew. My hands were shaking as I pressed the power button. The screen lit up, showing 47% battery, no password. It opened directly to the home screen. I should have put it back. I should have trusted him. I should have waited and asked him about it when he got home. But I didn't. I opened the Messages app. There was only one conversation with a contact saved as J. The messages went back 3 years. 3 years of conversations I knew nothing about. 3 years of lies. I scrolled to the bottom, to the very first messages, and started reading. Had an amazing time tonight. When can I see you again? Jay. Tomorrow. I'll make an excuse to work late. Robert. Your wife doesn't suspect anything? Jay. Maggie? No. She trusts me completely. Always has. Robert. I sat down on the bed. My legs suddenly unable to hold me. The phone felt like it weighed 100 pounds in my hands, but I couldn't stop reading. The messages went on and on. Plans to meet, photos of hotel rooms, pictures of restaurant meals. The same meals he'd sent me, claiming to be alone on business trips. But in these photos, I could see a woman's hand reaching across the table, wine glasses positioned for 2. There were voice messages, too. I pressed play on one, holding the phone to my ear. I miss you already, a woman's voice purred. Last night was incredible. I can't wait until you're finally free.
free. As if I was a prison he needed to escape from. I listened to message after message. Her voice became familiar. Young. Much younger than me. Maybe in her 30s. She called him Bobby. She giggled at his jokes. She talked about their future together. Just a little longer now, Robert's voice said in one recording. I'm working on the finances. Once I have everything secured, I'll tell Maggie it's over. Then you and I can finally start our real life together. I played that message 3 times, just to make sure I'd heard it correctly. My husband, of 44 years, was planning to leave me. He'd been planning it for 3 years, and he was stealing our money to do it. The most recent messages were from just 2 days ago. She suspects nothing. Meet me tonight. Usual place, 8 p.m. Can't wait, baby. I love you. Love you too. Not much longer now. Soon we'll be together for good. I looked at the timestamp. He'd sent that message while sitting next to me on the couch watching television, my hand resting on his knee. Then I thought, he'd been planning our end while I was touching him, trusting him, loving him. I don't know how long I sat there, phone in my hands, staring at nothing. The room seemed to spin. My chest felt tight, like I couldn't get enough air. 44 years. 44 years of my life poured into this marriage, into this man, into building a life together. And he was throwing it all away for someone named Jay? Part of me wanted to confront him immediately. Part of me wanted to throw the phone through the window and pretend I'd never found it. Part of me wanted to curl up on the bed and cry until there were no tears left. But another part of me, a part I didn't even know existed, started to wake up. I'd spent my entire adult life being accommodating, being understanding, being the perfect wife and mother. I'd swallowed my disappointments, made excuses for his absences, forgiven his forgotten anniversaries and birthdays. I trusted him with everything, our money, our future, my heart. And he'd been lying to me for 3 years. No, not anymore. I took pictures of the phone screen, every message, every photo, every timestamp. I connected the phone to my laptop and backed up everything. Then I carefully placed the phone exactly where I'd found it, back in the inner pocket of his jacket. My hands were steadier now. My mind was clearing. If Robert could spend 3 years planning his exit strategy, then I could spend a few weeks planning mine. I called my sister Patricia. "Can you come over?" I asked, my voice surprisingly calm. "I need your help with something." When Patricia arrived 20 minutes later, I showed her everything. She went pale, then red, then pale again. "Oh, Maggie," she whispered, pulling me into a hug. That's when I finally let myself break down, sobbing into my sister's shoulder, mourning the death of my marriage. But Patricia, bless her, didn't let me stay there long. She pulled back, gripped my shoulders, and looked me straight in the eye. "Okay," she said firmly, "here's what we're going to do. You're going to document everything, you're going to protect yourself financially, and you're going to find out exactly what he's been doing with your money. Then," she paused, her eyes flashing with anger, "then we're going to make sure he regrets the day he decided to betray you." I'd never heard my gentle, soft-spoken sister sound so fierce. It gave me strength. Over the next 2 weeks,
I became a detective in my own marriage. When Robert left for work, I searched his study. I found bank statements for the investment account, except it wasn't an investment account at all. It was a regular checking account, and he'd been draining it steadily. Of the $85,000 we'd put in, only $12,000 remained. The rest had gone to hotel stays, jewelry purchases, expensive dinners, and a monthly payment to a luxury apartment downtown. He'd bought her an apartment with our money, with the money we saved for our retirement, for our dream RV, for helping our children and grandchildren. I took pictures of everything. Every statement, every receipt, every piece of evidence I could find.
I called a lawyer Patricia recommended, a woman named Diane Chen, who specialized in divorce cases. I met with her in secret, showing her everything I documented. Diane looked at the evidence with sharp, assessing eyes. Then she looked at me. "Margaret," she said carefully, "your husband has been committing financial fraud. This isn't just infidelity. He's stolen marital assets, hidden them from you, and used them to fund an affair. In our state, that's grounds for a very favorable settlement." "I don't want revenge," I told her, though part of me was lying. "I just want what's fair." "Fair would be taking him for everything he's got," Diane said flatly. "But we'll start with getting back what he stole, plus damages. Now, I need you to do something that might be difficult. Don't confront him yet. Not until we have everything in place. Can you do that?" I didn't know if I could. Going home every day, pretending everything was normal, watching him lie to my face, it felt impossible. But I did it anyway. I smiled when Robert came home. I cooked his favorite meals. I asked about his day and listened to his fabricated stories about client meetings and project deadlines. I even initiated conversations about our retirement plans, our dream trip in the RV, all the adventures we'd have together. And the entire time, he looked me in the eyes and lied. "Can't wait, Maggie," he'd say, squeezing my hand across the dinner table. "Just one more year until retirement. Then it's you and me on the open road." You and me. He meant you and Jay. The breaking point came 3 weeks after I found the phone. I'd been following Diane's instructions, documenting everything, keeping my emotions in check, playing the perfect unsuspecting wife. But Robert came home one evening with an announcement. "Maggie, we need to talk about something," he said, his tone serious. My heart lurched. Did he know I'd found the phone? Had he figured out that I knew? "What is it?" I asked, keeping my voice steady. "He's been thinking about our retirement plans, and I think maybe we should downsize. Sell the house, move into something smaller, something easier to maintain." The house. Our house. The Victorian we'd renovated together, where we'd raised our children, where every room held memories of birthday parties and holidays and ordinary, beautiful moments. The house that was probably our single largest asset. "I'd like to think about it," I said. His face darkened slightly. "There's nothing to think about, Maggie. I'm just being practical. We're not getting any younger. Don't you want to make things easier?" "I said I need to think about it," I repeated, my voice firmer. He actually sighed, like I was being unreasonable. "Fine. But don't take too long. I told the realtor we'd have an answer by next week." He'd already set a timeline. He'd already started making decisions about our life, our home, without really consulting me. I was just an obstacle he needed to manage. That night, after Robert went to bed, I texted Diane. "He's trying to sell the house. What do I do?" Her response came quickly. "That's good. It shows his timeline. We need to move faster. Can you meet tomorrow?" The next day, while Robert was at work, I met with Diane at her office. She had a stack of papers ready. "I'm filing the divorce papers today. But before we do that, I need you to sign these documents. They freeze your joint accounts and prevent him from selling or mortgaging the house without your consent. This is really happening, I whispered. Yes, Diane said gently. But Margaret, you're going to come out of this okay. Better than okay. You have evidence of fraud, infidelity, and financial misconduct. When this goes before a judge, you're going to be fine. What about him? What happens to Robert? Her smile was sharp. He's going to learn a very expensive lesson about betraying the people who trust him. I signed the papers. All of them. And then I went home to wait. The explosion came 2 days later. Robert called me from work, his voice shaking with rage. "What the hell did you do, Margaret?" I'd been expecting this. "What are you talking about?" "The bank called me. They said our accounts are frozen. I can't access our money." "Oh," I said, my voice deliberately mild. "That must be uncomfortable for you." The silence on the other end of the line was profound. "Maggie," he said slowly, "what's going on? Why don't you come home, Robert? I think we need to have a conversation." "I can't come home. I'm at work. I have a meeting." "Cancel it," I said firmly. "Come home now, or we can have this conversation through our lawyers." Another long silence. "Our lawyers?" he repeated. "Maggie, what?" "Come home," I interrupted. "Now." He arrived 30 minutes later, bursting through the door with a mixture of confusion and anger on his face. I was sitting in the living room, the second phone on the coffee table in front of me. Robert stopped when he saw it. His face went white. "Where did you find that?" "Your jacket," I said calmly. "3 weeks ago." "Maggie, I can explain." "Don't. Please, don't insult me with explanations. I've read every message, Robert. 3 years worth. I know about Jay. I know about the apartment downtown. I know about the $73,000 you stole from our retirement savings." "I didn't steal anything," he said automatically. "That money was in a joint account, which you promised me was an investment account for our retirement." "You lied to me, Robert. For 3 years, you've been lying to me while planning to leave me for a woman young enough to be your daughter." He sank on the couch, his head in his hands. For a moment, I almost felt sorry for him. But then I remembered the messages, the lies, the casual cruelty of, "She suspects nothing." "How long have you known?" he asked quietly. 3 weeks. His head snapped up. 3 weeks? You've known for 3 weeks and you didn't say anything. I learned from the best. You kept secrets for 3 years. I managed 3 weeks. "Maggie, please," he said, reaching for my hand. I pulled away. "Don't touch me. Let me explain." "There's nothing to explain. You had an affair. You stole our money to fund it. You were planning to divorce me and leave me with nothing while you started a new life with her. Is there anything I'm missing?" He couldn't look at me. "It wasn't supposed to happen like this." "How was it supposed to happen, Robert? Were you going to be kind about it? Were you going to be honest? Oh, wait, no. You were going to sell our house first, pocket half the equity, and then tell me it was over." The house that I've maintained for 20 years while you were busy lying to me. The house where we raised our children. The house that you thought you could just sell out from under me without my consent." "I need that money," he said desperately. "For what? For her? For the apartment you're paying for? For the jewelry and the trips and the restaurants? You don't understand." "You're right. I don't understand how the man I've loved for 44 years could betray me so completely. I don't understand how you could look me in the eyes every day while planning to destroy our life together. I don't understand." My voice broke. "How you could stop loving me and not even tell me." That's when Robert started crying too. I never stopped loving you, Maggie. Don't, I said firmly. Don't you dare tell me you love me. Love doesn't look like this. Love doesn't lie. Love doesn't steal. Love doesn't throw away 44 years like they meant nothing. They meant everything, he insisted. You meant everything. But I felt old, Maggie. I felt like life was passing me by, and then I met Jennifer, and she made me feel young again. Jennifer. So that's who Jay was. How old is she? He hesitated. 32. 32 years old. Younger than our longest daughter. And where did you meet this Jennifer? She's a junior architect at the firm. She started 3 years ago. 3 years ago. Right when he made partner. Right when he stopped touching me, stopped seeing me, stopped loving me. Does anyone at work know? His silence was answer enough. So everyone knows, I said quietly. Your colleagues, your boss, probably the whole damn office knows that you're sleeping with a woman half your age while your wife sits at home waiting for you. Maggie, I want you out, I said suddenly. Pack a bag, leave, go to Jennifer's apartment, the one you bought her with our money. Go be young with her. This is my house too.
No, I said. This is my house. I'm the one who's maintained it, decorated it, made it a home. You're just the one who's been sleeping here while living a completely different life. And now you're the one who's getting out. I have rights, Robert said, his voice taking on an edge. Legal rights. You can't just kick me out. Actually, I said calmly, I can. See, while you were busy planning your exit strategy, I was preparing mine. I have a lawyer, a very good lawyer, and she's filed divorce papers citing adultery and financial fraud. So unless you want the court to freeze everything, and I mean everything, you'll pack a bag and leave voluntarily. Robert stared at me like he'd never seen me before. Maybe he hadn't. Maybe I'd never really existed to him as anything more than faithful, trusting Maggie who would never question him. You really did this, he said slowly. You froze our accounts. You filed for divorce. You planned this. I learned from the best, I repeated. Now get out. For a moment, I thought he might refuse. He opened his mouth, closed it, opened it again. Then he stood up and walked upstairs. I heard drawers opening and closing, the sound of a suitcase being zipped. 20 minutes later, he came back down with a large duffel bag. I'll come back for the rest of my things, he said stiffly. Call first. I'm changing the locks tomorrow. You can't do that. Watch me, I said. This is my house, Robert. You gave up your right to it when you decided to betray me. He stood there for a long moment, bag in hand, looking around the living room like he was seeing it for the first time, or maybe for the last time. I really did love you, Maggie, he said softly. Maybe you did, I said, but clearly not enough. He walked to the door, paused with his hand on the handle. What are you going to tell the kids? The truth, I said. What are you going to tell them? He didn't have an answer for that. He just opened the door and left. I stood in the empty living room listening to his car start and pull out of the driveway. Then I sat down on the couch, picked up the second phone and threw it as hard as I could against the wall. It shattered into pieces, and I finally let myself break down completely. But only for a little while, because I had work to do.
The next morning I called my children, all three of them, one by one, and told them what their father had done. Emma cried. Michael cursed. Sophie just went silent. "I can't believe it," Emma kept saying. "Dad wouldn't do this. There must be some mistake." So I sent her the screenshots. All of them. She called me back 20 minutes later, crying even harder. "Mom, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry." Michael wanted to confront his father immediately. "I'll kill him," he said, only half joking. "I can't believe he did this to you." Sophie was the one who surprised me most. My gentle, soft-spoken youngest daughter went absolutely silent for a full minute after I told her. Then she said, "Don't worry, Mom. He's going to regret this." That afternoon, all three of my children showed up at the house with their spouses and kids. They surrounded me with love, with anger on my behalf, with fierce protectiveness. My son-in-law, Marcus, Emma's husband, worked in finance. He helped me understand exactly what Robert had done with our money and how to trace every stolen dollar. My daughter-in-law, Claire, Michael's wife, was an attorney. Not a divorce attorney, but she knew people. She made calls, pulled strings, and within 2 days I had forensic accountants looking through Robert's financial records. And Sophie, my baby girl, she did something I never expected. She created a group chat with all 6 of the grandchildren. The oldest was 16, the youngest was 8, and told them, in age-appropriate terms, that Grandpa made some very bad choices and hurt Grandma, but that everything was going to be okay. The grandchildren's reaction was swift and brutal. They started calling Robert, leaving voicemails and sending texts. "Grandpa, why did you hurt Grandma? I don't want to see you anymore. You're mean. What you did was wrong. I thought you were better than this." From 16-year-old Alex. Robert called me crying 2 days after he left, begging me to tell the kids to stop. "Please, Maggie, they won't talk to me. They won't listen. Please tell them I'm not a bad person." "I didn't tell them to do this," I said honestly. "They made their own choice based on the truth, just like I did." "You turned my whole family against me," he said angrily. "No, Robert, you did that all by yourself."
The divorce proceedings moved surprisingly fast. The evidence was overwhelming. I had the messages, the financial records, the proof of his lies. Diane filed for fault-based divorce, citing adultery and financial fraud. Robert hired his own lawyer, a slick man in an expensive suit, who tried to argue that Robert deserved half of everything. But the evidence was damning. The forensic accountants traced every dollar Robert had taken from our joint account. $73,000 to the apartment for Jennifer, $12,000 in jewelry, $8,000 in hotel stays, $4,500 in dinners and gifts. The total came to $97,500 of marital assets used to fund an extramarital affair. In court, Robert's lawyer tried to claim that Robert was entitled to spend marital funds however he chose. Diane shut that down immediately. "Your Honor," she said calmly, "the defendant systematically lied to my client about the purpose of these funds, moved them without her knowledge or consent, and used them to support an extramarital relationship while simultaneously planning to divorce my client and leave her destitute. This isn't discretionary spending. This is fraud." The judge, a stern woman in her 60s, looked at Robert over her glasses. "Mr. Thompson, did you tell your wife you were moving $85,000 into an investment account for retirement?" "Yes," Robert admitted. "And was it in fact an investment account for retirement?" "No, Your Honor." "What was it?" Robert swallowed hard. A checking account. And what did you use those funds for? The courtroom was silent. I used them for personal expenses, Robert finally said. Personal expenses, including an apartment for your mistress. Robert's face went red. Yes, Your Honor. The judge made a note in her file. I'll have my decision by next week. In the meantime, the restraining order on marital assets remains in place. 1 week later, Diane called me with the results. I was at home, having tea with Patricia, when my phone rang. We won, Diane said simply. You won everything. What do you mean? The judge ruled in your favor on every single count. You get the house, free and clear. You get 75% of all remaining marital assets, including his pension and 401k. He has to repay the $97,500 he stole, plus interest. And because he committed fraud, he's responsible for all legal fees, yours and his. I couldn't speak. Patricia grabbed my hand, tears streaming down her face. Margaret? Diane's voice came through the phone. Did you hear me? You won. I heard you. Thank you. Thank you so much. After I hung up, Patricia and I sat there holding hands, crying together. Not tears of sadness anymore, but tears of relief, of vindication, of justice finally being served. But the story doesn't end there, because Robert apparently wasn't done making terrible decisions. 2 weeks after the court ruling, my daughter Emma called me. Mom, you need to see this. She sent me a screenshot from Facebook. Robert had posted a long, rambling message about how he'd been taken to the cleaners by a vindictive ex-wife who couldn't stand to see him happy. He claimed I'd fabricated evidence that our marriage had been dead for years anyway, and that he was the victim of a corrupt legal system. The comments section was interesting, because apparently Robert had forgotten that we had mutual friends on social media, friends who'd watched our marriage for decades, friends who'd seen me stand by him through everything while he was secretly betraying me. Robert, you should be ashamed of yourself, wrote our old neighbor Dorothy. Margaret was nothing but devoted to you. I saw you at that restaurant with that young woman last year, and you told me she was a colleague. You looked me in the eye and lied. Margaret deserves better. Corrupt legal system? You stole from your wife and cheated on her. Take some responsibility, wrote someone I didn't even know. The post was up for 3 hours before Robert deleted it. But the internet never forgets. People had already taken screenshots and the story spread through our social circle like wildfire. Robert's reputation at his firm suffered too. It turned out that having an affair with a junior colleague while in a position of power was against company policy. His partners weren't happy about the scandal. Within a month, he was asked to resign from the partnership. He called me when it happened, drunk and crying. "Are you happy now?" he slurred. "You've destroyed my life." "No, Robert," I said calmly. "You destroyed your own life, and you tried to destroy mine. The difference is, I survived." I hung up on him. It was the last time we spoke directly. The divorce was finalized 3 months after that court ruling. I got everything the judge had awarded me, the house, the money, most of his retirement.
That relationship, by the way, didn't last. According to Sophie, who heard it from a friend who worked at Robert's old firm, Jennifer broke up with him 2 months after he lost his partnership. Apparently, dating a disgraced architect without money or status wasn't as appealing as dating a successful partner. Huh? She'd been after his position and his money all along. The moment those were gone, so was she. Robert moved into a small apartment on the other side of town. He got a job at a smaller firm, making about half what he used to earn. Most of his paycheck went to paying me back the money he'd stolen, as ordered by the court. And me? I started to rebuild my life. The first thing I did was redecorate. Every room that reminded me of Robert, every color he'd chosen, every piece of furniture we'd picked out together, I changed it all.
Patricia helped me paint the bedroom a soft lavender color. Emma helped me choose new curtains. Sophie helped me rearrange the furniture. I turned Robert's study into a craft room. I'd always wanted space for my hobbies, quilting, painting, scrapbooking, but there had never been room. Now there was. I joined a book club at the local library. I started taking yoga classes with Patricia. I volunteered at the elementary school where I used to teach, helping kids with reading. I traveled to visit Emma in California, spending 2 weeks with her family. I flew to Colorado to see Michael and his kids. I drove to Sophie's house every Sunday for dinner. And this time, I wasn't making excuses for anyone's absence. My grandchildren slowly started reaching out to Robert again. I never told them not to. That was their choice to make. But their relationships with him were different now. Strained, careful. They loved him, but they didn't trust him the way they used to. And they made sure I knew that I was their priority. "Grandma, you're the strongest person I know," 16-year-old Alex told me one day. We were sitting in my garden, drinking lemonade. "The way you handled everything, you taught me what it means to stand up for yourself." I hugged him tight, tears streaming down my face. "Sometimes standing up for yourself is the hardest thing you'll ever do," I told him. "But you're always worth fighting for. Remember that." 6 months after the divorce was finalized, I did something I'd been thinking about for a while. Pause. I bought a small RV. Not the big luxury one Robert and I had talked about, but a cozy little camper that was perfect for one person, or two if I wanted company. Patricia and I took it on a road trip through New England, stopping at small towns and scenic overlooks, eating at local diners, staying at campgrounds under the stars. It was everything I dreamed retirement would be, just with a different companion than I had expected. "You seem happy," Patricia said one night as we sat by a campfire roasting marshmallows. "I am," I said, surprised to realize it was true. I didn't think I would be. I thought losing Robert would break me. But instead, I trailed off, looking up at the stars. Instead, I found myself again, the person I was before I made my entire life about being his wife. "You were always more than that," Patricia said firmly. "You just forgot for a while." Maybe I had. But I remembered now. A year after the divorce, I ran into Robert at the grocery store. It was awkward and unavoidable. We both reached for the same box of cereal at the same time. Our hands touched, and we both pulled back like we'd been burned. "Maggie," he said, looking older than I remembered. "How are you?" "I'm well," I said politely. "You?" "I'm managing," he said. He looked at my shopping cart, full of fresh vegetables and flowers. Then he looked at his own cart, frozen dinners and beer. Pause. "You look good. Happy." "I am," I said simply. "I'm sorry," he said suddenly, desperately. "For everything. I know I've said it before, but I mean it. I was an idiot. I threw away the best thing in my life for nothing." I looked at this man I'd spent 44 years with, this man who'd been my whole world, this man who'd broken my heart into a million pieces. And I felt nothing. No anger, no sadness, no longing. Just a distant memory of love that used to be. "I forgive you," I said. Pause. Not because he deserved it, but because I deserved peace. His eyes filled with tears. Could we ever? "No," I said firmly. "That part of our lives is over, Robert. You made your choices, I made mine, and now we both have to live with them." "He misses you," he whispered. "You should have thought of that before you betrayed me." I took my cereal, a different brand than the one we'd both reached for, and walked away. I didn't look back.
That was 6 months ago. Since then, I've continued building my new life. I'm taking painting classes and just sold my first piece at a local art fair. I'm planning a trip to Europe with Patricia next spring. I've started dating again, nothing serious, just coffee with a retired teacher I met at the library, dinners with a widower for my yoga class. It's nice to remember that I'm still attractive, still interesting, still worthy of attention and affection. My children are proud of me. "Mom, you're like a completely different person," Michael said last time he visited. "Stronger, more confident." "I'm the same person I always was," I told him. "I just remembered my worth." The house is paid off now. I refinanced it after the divorce, using some of the settlement money to clear the remaining mortgage. Every room reflects my taste, my personality, my choices. It's not Robert's house anymore. It's mine. Truly, completely mine. I still have hard days when I think about 44 years of marriage and wonder how it all went wrong. Days when I see elderly couples holding hands and feel a pang of loss for what I thought I had. Days when I'm angry all over again at the betrayal, the lies, the casual cruelty of she suspects nothing. But those days are getting fewer and farther between. Because here's what I've learned. Betrayal doesn't have to break you. It can transform you. It can show you strength you didn't know you had. It can teach you that your worth isn't determined by someone else's ability to see it. I spent 44 years making Robert the center of my universe. I cooked his meals, washed his clothes, raised his children, supported his career, made his comfort my priority. And when he threw all that away, I thought I'd lost everything. But I was wrong. I hadn't lost everything. I'd just lost him. And in losing him, I found myself. The woman I am now, the one who stands up for herself, who knows her worth, who isn't afraid to demand respect, she was always there. She was just buried under years of compromise and accommodation and putting everyone else first. Robert's betrayal didn't create her. She just gave her permission to emerge. Last week, I got a letter from Robert's lawyer. He's petitioning the court to reduce his repayment amount, claiming financial hardship. Diane called me immediately. "What do you want to do?" she asked. "Fight it," I said without hesitation. "He made this mess. He can deal with the consequences." "That's my girl," Diane said, and I could hear the smile in her voice. Yesterday was my 68th birthday. All 3 of my children came to the house with their families. We had a barbecue in the backyard, played games with the grandchildren, laughed until our sides hurt. It was perfect. Everything I'd wanted my golden years to be, surrounded by love, by family, by people who truly valued me. At the end of the night, after everyone had gone home, I sat on my porch with a glass of wine, watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of pink and orange. And I thought about the woman I'd been a year and a half ago, the one who found a second phone and felt her world collapse. I wish I could go back and tell her that she was going to be okay, better than okay, that she was going to survive this, that she was going to thrive. But that woman is gone now. She died the day she found that phone, and someone stronger rose from her ashes, someone who knows her worth, someone who won't settle for less than she deserves, someone who learned that betrayal, as painful as it is, can be the catalyst for the most profound transformation. Someone who is finally, truly free. Robert took 44 years of my life. He took my trust, my innocence, my belief in happily ever after. He took so much from me. But he couldn't take my strength. He couldn't take my resilience. He couldn't take my ability to rebuild, to reimagine, to rise. And in the end, that's what saved me. So to anyone listening to this who's going through something similar, who's discovered a betrayal, who's facing the collapse of a life they thought was secure, who's questioning whether they can survive this pain, please hear me.
You are stronger than you know. You are more resilient than you think. You are worthy of so much more than someone who would betray your trust. The journey isn't easy. There will be days when you want to give up, when the pain feels too intense, when you wonder if you'll ever feel whole again. But you will. You'll wake up one morning and realize you made it through another night, then another week, then another month. And slowly, gradually, the pieces of yourself that shattered will begin to come back together, not in the same pattern as before, but in something new, something stronger, something that's entirely, beautifully yours. Robert tried to destroy me. He tried to take everything and leave me with nothing. But I'm still here. I'm still standing. I'm still fighting. And I'm not just surviving anymore. I'm living. Really, truly living, maybe for the first time in decades. My name is Margaret Ann Thompson. I'm 68 years old. I'm a mother, a grandmother, an artist, a traveler, a friend. I'm a survivor of betrayal and a testament to the strength that lives in all of us when we're pushed to our breaking point. And I'm not done yet, not by a long shot. If my story resonates with you, if you've experienced something similar, or if you just want to share your thoughts, please leave a comment below. I'd love to hear from you. Your stories, your struggles, your triumphs, they matter. You matter. And remember, betrayal might bend you, might break you temporarily, but it doesn't have to define you. You define yourself. And you are so much stronger than anyone who betrayed you ever gave you credit for. Thank you for listening to my story, and may you never need to live one like it. But if you do, may you find the strength to rise, just like I did.